Hey everyone, this is the dialogue. So today I'm looking at Stephen Avery. I'm looking at a juror who has since come out saying that he believes that Stephen Avery is innocent after all, and that the jurors basically got it wrong. Let's have a look.
That includes a member of the jury. Richard Mahler was a juror number 11 in the Stephen Avery jury. He was released early from deliberations for a family emergency, but he believes Avery is innocent. First of all, why do you think Stephen Avery is innocent?
According to the evidence I reviewed in the courtroom, the 6 weeks I was there, it didn't all add up.
Okay, he is closing his eyes elongatedly, his eyes, I should say. Now that can indicate that he himself is in deception, or that he is regretful or didn't want this information to come out, and now he's regretful that he has to push this information out, which makes sense in this case.
In what sense?
The blood vial I noticed was tampered with. I don't believe that
And so he licked his lips right there. It can indicate that he's dry. It can be a mannerism that he does, or it can be an up yours, I'm telling people what I saw or what I know. When we poke our tongue out, we're going, no, I know something you don't know.
Here's the needle going to the vial, and the tape was Scotch tape, and there was no blood. In Stephen's trailer or near the garage or DNA of Teresa's anywhere to be found.
I want you to bring us back into that jury room in those initial hours. The jurors took a vote. What did that vote find?
Well, we did a paper ballot vote, and the vote came out 7 not guilty, 3 guilty, and 2 undecided.
That's a face of regret right there. You can see the sadness in his face, and it's an absolute regret. Mouth closed together. It's with sadness, so it's regret mixed with not being able to say what he really thinks.
And obviously you weren't in the room for the final verdict, but...
Swallow. He's feeling guilty.
Why do you think your fellow jurors ended up convicting Avery?
I really don't know.
And that was a regret sign?
I was with another juror after the trial. We went out, and I asked him why they found him guilty, and his statement to me was, think of all the things he did when he was younger.
Again, that's regret and slamming mouth closed, which means there's more to say on that matter.
So they were including his past life, particularly maybe past life offenses, as opposed to what he was currently charged with. Is that what you're saying?
That was the way I took it. I took it hard. It's like, you guys convicted even on all the things he did when he was younger. It wasn't based on the evidence. That was...
So he's critical, his eyes narrowed, and his shoulders went up. He's trying to shove off what they did.
Yeah, I took that comment.
So you got a sense that they were basing it on his character and not the evidence. Since the series was released, I know another member of the jury has come forward, and some have said that the jurors fear for their safety. Why do you think a juror would fear for his or her safety? Did you?
Yes, and I feel, that way today.
Again, so his tongue poked out. That can indicate up yours in a subconscious way. It's not conscious, by the way. He's trying to shrug off the threat.
I'm still nervous about it. I know there are people out there that know he's guilty. I have my opinions, and I believe I'm entitled to them. I can understand why this juror would feel that way.
Well, can you explain that to us? Because it may be a bit puzzling. Who exactly are you fearful of?
Well, I've been getting a lot of threats on social media. And they've been making up stories and stuff about my family and me and this accident. What happened was I walked into the jury room for the first 4 hours of deliberation, and one of the gentlemen had his arms crossed, and he said to me, he's guilty as hell. And I thought, well, how can this be if he ain't, what is wrong with this guy? He ain't even willing to look at the evidence.
Yeah, the trial. This is before the trial even began, you're saying?
No, this is during deliberations, during the first 4 hours of deliberation.
So he poked his tongue out again, indicating, up yours. That's my middle finger to, I'm not saying to her, but to the juror maybe. That's what because he's remembering talking about that particular juror, talking about Stephen Avery.
Deliberations. When we first walked into the deliberation room, because I was there for 4 hours. And then we went out to eat at a restaurant after the 4 hours because we wrapped it up for the day that day. And I sat next to this juror, and this juror, I said, man, I just can't handle this. And he said, well, then why don't you leave? I don't know if that was because he thought...
So a little bit of disgust coming in here.
I was a threat to the guilty verdict or what, but I took that pretty hard too. And then we went back to we went to our hotel with armed officers all around us because we couldn't talk to each other or the media or, get any...
regret. Now, again, he is closing his eyes a lot. That's probably a mannerism of his, that when he's facing something controversial, he closes his eyes because he doesn't want to know it.
I wasn't sure what it was, but with the statements that were made to me in the jury room, the statement at the restaurant, and the situation at home, I was in an emotional breakdown because of everything that was happening, sitting 6 weeks on a trial, listening to all the evidence, the other two things I mentioned, and then the thing at home.
Yeah, and
So there was a degree of emotion coming through. You can see that in his mouth. Let's go back just a bit.
And then the thing at home.
Yeah, right there. It's emotion and sadness right there.
Yeah, and
That's why I left.
Go ahead.
That's why I left the jury.
Did you know who Stephen Avery was going into this trial?
No, I didn't.
You hadn't been following the case, and you hadn't been following the charges at all?
No, I knew nothing about Stephen.
Contempt.
And did you know whether or not other jurors did?
From what I hear later on after the trial, after they made their guilty verdict, and I've talked to people that I've known that, or found out that a lot of people on the jury either have been out to the junkyard or, knew Stephen in some way.
So, in your mind, this wasn't an impartial jury?
That's what I believe.
Okay, so that's all in all my analysis of the juror 11 in the case of Stephen Avery. He's mostly congruent. He does close his eyes a lot, but that seems to be a mannerism of his because there's so many points in that interview where he was clearly telling the truth, but his eyes were closed. Tells me that he's quite a sensitive person and just couldn't dealing with all of this. So it's interesting that he's come out in defense of Avery. Thanks for watching. This is The Dialogue. Please like and subscribe.